spinning wheel of death. How's it going, everybody? Fernando, Halos in the infield, the Lone Star Halo, joined here by one of our favorites, Dominic Lorenz of Catella Chronicles. We're here post All-Star break. Well, I mean, we're in the middle of the All-Star break. We're going to talk mid-season grades. All that and more up next.
Hey, you are now listening or watching the Halos in the Infield podcast, sponsored in part by Noble L Works over on 1621 South Sinclair, where you can get discounts by just mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield, drink discounts on us, baby. And also by 714 Tickets, 714 Tickets. The price you see is the price you get, and you also get 10% additionally off in the Apply Now code once you order your tickets just by mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show.
In the land of last shores, I play my part with the Halos in the infield. I'll make my mark. I'm the Lone Star Halo, shining bright tonight. In a sea of rangers, I'll stand and fight with the Halos in the outfield under stadium lights. From Texas to Anaheim, we'll soar to new heights. We'll soar to new heights.
Hello, everybody. As mentioned, the Lone Star Halo. Dominic, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a blast to have you back on here. Dominic, how you been?
Busy. It's been a very wild summer so far. Glad to be here with you. And I'm enjoying the new, I don't want to say new because it's been going on for a while, but the entrance music and the feel of the podcast now. So many great things happening with Halos in the Infield. But had a little downtime, and let's talk some mid-season grades from our, I guess you could say, lovable Halos. I don't know. What is the good adjective to use for this squad now?
Floundering.
Floundering. All right. We're going to go with them. Is that a preview? F for floundering? F?
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe.
So we're not going to go through the entire roster here, of course, but I want to hit some of the main guys. Perhaps there'll be a little bit more discussion for some than others, but we'll hit a name. If you have one to throw out there that maybe I've missed, slipped through the cracks, you can throw it out there. We'll give them a grade, talk a little bit about it, and work our way through.
Let's do it.
So let's start with our all-star, our pitcher who didn't get to throw a single pitch in the MLB All-Star game. Very Angels, if you will. Tyler Anderson. What's your immediate reaction on Tyler Anderson? Give him a letter grade.
Based on the Angels right now, he is getting an A for Anderson. He has been the cornerstone of the starting rotation this season. He has been consistent, dynamic. And I think if you look at his overall line score from each game he's pitched, there's maybe one, maybe two blemishes all season long. But he has been that model of consistency that we always talk about on this show. And I know we were hoping it was coming from Reed Detmers. We haven't seen him in over a month since his demotion to AAA. Sandoval's out probably until 2026. And really after that, the Jose Soriano experiment, Griffin Canning coming back in a fuller capacity. Tyler Anderson has been that guy that's been legit rock solid. A completely different Tyler Anderson that we saw last season. It's pretty much the Tyler Anderson that was with the Dodgers in those years. So automatically, no doubt about it, A for Tyler Anderson.
Now, are we grading, if we're honest with ourselves, a little bit on a curve? Not because he's not having a good year. Anytime a pitcher's in the twos, that's good.
Yes.
But the problem is over his last couple of starts, it got a little dicey. I think his last two starts have been pretty good. But, the 3-4 before that made his ERA rise from the low twos to over 3 for a little while. So how much of his grade of an A do you think is on a curve because of the Tyler Anderson we saw last year when we were all, this is not the guy?
A little bit. I would say there is a little bit of a curve. Again, like I said, with the way the rotation ended up being so far this year, by leaps and bounds, it's Tyler Anderson. And like they say in Moneyball, 50 feet of crap, and then you have the rest.
Absolutely.
So I think you would scale it a little bit. If maybe there was another guy in this rotation, maybe like a Paul Skeens of Pittsburgh or a Garrett Cole or some bona fide ace to pair with him, then you would say, okay, maybe B plus, A minus. But I think just with all factors involved with how things have gone this year for the Angels, yeah, is Tyler Anderson, does he have the best stuff in baseball? No. But has he been effective this year, which is something that we were shaky about last year? Absolutely. So I will take that any day of the week if it's from your ace, or even if he was like a 3-4 guy like he was last year.
Yeah, I'm going to give him about a B plus, A minus. Right now, A minus, because we're still riding the high of the All-Star game for him. You mentioned his name just now, Patrick Sandoval. He is hurt, but he was 2-8 with a 5.08 ERA. That was below expectations for a guy like Patrick Sandoval, right?
Oh, 100%. Very, very below. It's hard to talk about it in a way because it is injury based in that sense. And maybe this was something that was bothering him for the majority of the season. And now we're in this situation where it's like, okay, see you later. See you in not just 25, but 26. And the patience was already wearing thin. And it's now even thinner. And I don't know if we have patience left for a guy like Patrick Sandoval, who we thought we fleeced from the Houston Astros and a bunch of different scenarios that we've talked about before.
Absolutely.
I think, it's hard for me to say it. I've kind of lost hope a little bit. Sandoval did have a couple of moments this year, especially that game in Miami back in April. That was very strong. But I think when you have to culminate it all together, and like I said for Tyler Anderson, we kind of graded on a curve. Well, we have to grade Sandoval on a curve as well with the injury in mind. So I really do think that it is a tough situation. And, I think maybe because of those 2 or 3 decent outings, I would probably put Sandoval at like a D minus. Because, I'm not going to give him an F because he did pitch. You know me, I don't throw out Fs very often unless you really are god awful. But I would say probably a steep D minus just with everything that's gone on for him. His stuff hasn't been great. And now with the injury, again, putting it on that side of the curve.
So, but you would give someone like Reed Detmers an F on his first half for what little time he did get to spend up here?
I would probably put him in the D minus teetering an F plus, because, he did have 1, maybe 2 decent outings. I'd have to look at the number of quality starts. They're probably very low, but he did throw a very good game in Baltimore in that opening series. So, kind of saved the day in a sense for the Angels. But yeah, Sandoval and Detmers are in the same situation, and Reed Detmers right now, as we speak, is still in AAA, and he is still struggling, giving up 4, 5, 6, if not more runs per game. Yeah, he's going 5+ innings. That's not that hard in the PCL of AAA, but it's the amount of home runs and runs that he's giving up and pitches to contact that are going to scare you. And I think, honestly, Reed Detmers is going to spend the majority of the rest of this season in AAA if it won't be for a September call-up because the Angels because of the trade deadline and what could happen.
As he should. I believe he needs to. But how the mighty have fallen. Because there was a while where people were using the A word. Hey, this guy's an ace. This guy's going to be our ace. And we can't say that people weren't using it because it was thrown around. It was a question of the day. It was a term that people were using. Most people were a little cautious about it. Like, hey, let's give it some time because look what happened. Yeah. Let's talk about a guy who has arguably been one of the aces of this team, a guy who all of a sudden might be a member of this young core, Jose Soriano, 5-7 with a 3.71 ERA. He has been a bright spot in a very, very cloudy first half of the season. Mm-hmm. Dominic, great Jose Soriano.
From what we knew of Soriano coming into spring training, he was probably going to be a reliever, maybe stretched out to a starter for a spot start kind of mentality. Now he's full bona fide starter.
Very Felix Pena, if you remember him.
Very Felix Pena. So you sit in that situation, you say, okay, he's now taken on a role in this rotation, and Ron Washington said it from the jump, and he has made it happen. I'm giving Jose Soriano in the B range because he's got the arsenal. He has the stuff to go deep into games. We've seen him do that. Now, you mentioned his record in ERA. Todd and I did the game against Cincinnati earlier in the year where he pitched flawlessly with the exception of a couple of errors that scored 3 runs, and he gets tapped with the loss. You know, I'm not a huge winner and loser person when it comes to pitching stats because it's always dependent on different situations, but I would easily say that is a B in that regard.
He's been stellar this year. He has really, really started to make Angels fans stop for a second and admire his potential. This is an organization that has starved for a young guy who looked like he could be here and be successful for a long period of time. Jose Soriano is able to consistently pump near the triple digits. He is able to command his pitches. And the best part, he seems to have a good idea of what to throw in what situation. There's a lot of guys like him who are young and unproven who struggle with that kind of thing. Look at a guy like Reed Detmers, has had potential, but he's really struggled to have an out pitch. Not Jose Soriano. He seems to really, really mix his pitches well.
Yeah, I think Soriano, you throw in that knuckler pitch, and you throw in that fastball pitch, and you throw in the sweeper slurvy type situation, whatever you want to call it. It's the balance. And, we talked about Tyler Anderson with effectiveness. Now we're going with the balance of Soriano. And remember, he's learning how to become a starting pitcher. He was never a starting pitcher in the past. So this is a learning curve. And like you said, with O'Hoppe, Neto, and all these younger guys, this is what the learning curve is going to look like. Trial now, succeed now and in the future.
So let's keep talking about some pitching here. Let's talk about Ben Joyce. 14 games this season with a 2.76 ERA, 16 innings, 16 strikeouts. How are we feeling about Ben this year?
I think it was a great situation to start him at Double-A. No doubt about it. I think we've all known about the velocity. We've all known how fast he can throw a baseball. I think it's the command that Ron Washington really wanted him to work out through this season, and he's showing it now. So that little stint in Double-A is going to work on him later because it doesn't matter if you can throw 105 or 110. You have to be able to place it perfectly and throw off the opposing batter. Hitters can hit fastballs. Who cares if it's 80 or 105? Location and command. And I think Ben Joyce has done that very well. Again, limited sample size. I'm putting him in the B minus range as well because I think there's still much to learn and see from him. Again, trade deadline. If we lose Estevez, Joyce is probably your next option.
Absolutely. And I'm super excited for the trade deadline show. I really hope you can make it for that.
Yeah.
More details of that to come for our audience as we get a little closer to that. So let's talk about another guy who's seemingly on the trade block, Luis Garcia. 41 games this year, 4.08 ERA, 39 innings pitched. How are we feeling about Luis Garcia?
I wasn't thrilled when the Angels signed him in the offseason because I felt it was a been there, done that situation, and I think it was...
He was a terrible Angel the first time.
Yeah, it was. I don't want to say it was an emergency pick, but it was just something to add another body in the bullpen. He's been, again, I don't want to say locked down in certain spots, but he's had a clean inning here and a clean inning there and then a bad outing here. Very Jekyll and Hyde. So I guess, what do you give a Jekyll and Hyde? C minus, D plus effort? Because if I have Sandoval at a D minus, and we've seen how that's gone, so I guess, again, grading on that curve, I guess you can say C minus, because again, when you're Jekyll and Hyde, you're just kind of right in the middle. There's really nothing too positive to say, and not really anything too crazy negative to say. It's just, it's not what we hoped from all those bullpen signings and where the bullpen is now. But again, Joyce, Estevez are on the rise and kind of carrying the bullpen in certain ways.
Let me try to articulate how I feel about Luis Garcia. He's the definition of, it's fine. Very C. So let's just say your grandma comes over, right? You haven't seen your grandma in a while, and she's like, hey, let's go get some ice cream. And you're like, great. And grandma's like, okay, let's go. Let's go. So you go to get ice cream, right? You're expecting Yogurt Land, maybe some Cold Stone. and she takes you to like Target to the ice cream aisle, and you pick up some ice cream like that.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, okay. I thought we were going to like, Baskin Robbins, and
ice
this is
cream is
fine.
yeah,
It's fine.
ice cream is ice cream. So when you're a kid, you're going to eat anything. And
Yeah.
as your palate gets a little more refined as you get older, it's like Baskin Robbins, Cold Stone, maybe a little old
Golden
school thrifty,
Spoon.
Golden
Yeah.
Spoon, something.
Yeah.
But when you're in that scenario, you're just like, again, typical with the Angels bullpen and just Angels pitching in general. What are we going to get today?
Yeah.
Let's flip the coin and see what happens. And I feel that's what you get from Luis Garcia.
Yeah, it left a little bit to be desired when the move
Yeah.
was made, and I
Correct.
think it still does. When he comes out of the bullpen, you're not like, hey, this is our guy, this is a lockdown situation. But Ron Washington clearly feels different because he uses him in some high leverage situations.
Yes.
Let's talk about a guy who also left a lot to be desired with this signing, especially because of what he meant to us a couple seasons ago. Hunter Strickland.
Yes.
Having also a very Jekyll and Hyde 2024, there is times where this man is lights out. 2 or 3 times in a row, you're not going to touch him. And then you have times where he's a pitching machine,
Yep.
and he's just throwing BP. 43 games, 3.48 ERA, 44 innings pitched. If I would have asked you about this guy a month and a half ago, you probably would have said A+++. Where are you where we currently stand with Hunter Strickland?
Oh, boy. Yes, I would agree. He was an A. And then once the calendar flipped to June, middle of June, it just really took a turn for the worst. And we saw it in that big, horrible Sunday afternoon game in San Francisco and a little bit before that. So I would put him a tick or two above Luis Garcia. So maybe just a flat out good, just a plain C. Because again, he had a really
You get a
good April.
75%.
Exactly. Maybe, you get that right in the middle grade. A good April, good May. And then June and July, the wheels fell off. He's had a couple of moments in July where it hasn't been, horrible. Again, look at the 6-game winning streak the Angels had in that homestand with Oakland and Detroit. And everybody was pitching flawlessly and timely hitting was happening. And we were all feeling good about ourselves. So I think if you had to, point me in the right direction of would you rather have Strickland on the team the rest of the year or Garcia? It's a tough decision because you're picking at pennies at this point. But I would probably lean towards a little more with Strickland because he's been better for more time this year than Garcia has. Not just this year, but even Garcia when he was with us the first time.
Hunter Strickland, will he be an Angel post-trade deadline?
Because we don't know how much we're going to sell, or who knows, Artie could just say we're going to buy some people and, have a shot at this thing. We don't know the sense of direction
Sounds
with
like
this
him.
team. I think if we do go into a full blow sell, full on Estevez gone and Pilar gone and Anderson gone, I could see someone taking a flyer on Hunter Strickland. No doubt about it. He doesn't cost much. It would be like probably what? A low minor leaguer or cast considerations type deal or a something base level, nothing crazy. So I say he wouldn't be on the top of the list to be dealt. But if the Angels do go into that full-blown adios mode, he could maybe slip in as like the 11th hour, the final 10 minutes of kind of like Dominic Leone was with us last year from the Mets. Like that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's fair. I think still a bad trade. So let's talk about Carlos Estevez, and this will be our last wrap-up for pitchers.
Yes.
31 games, 2.61 ERA, 31 innings pitched. And I think this is another guy. If I asked you this a month and a half ago, we would have said, D,
Yep.
this guy sucks. Get rid of him for whatever you can. Beans at this point. But all of a sudden, he's been lights out the last really month and a half.
Yep.
And there was some people thinking this man was going to make an all-star game, right? Like, hey,
Yep.
this guy has a chance to be an all-star again.
Mhm.
I'm not going to go as far as to say he was snubbed, but certainly he had to at least get some consideration for that game. So, where are we on Estevez?
Probably B+. I think the drastic turnaround has been very good, swift, and dynamic. And you don't go and throw 10 appearances in the month of June with a 0 ERA for nothing and not get rewarded for that. And he did with the reliever of the month
Of the month award, yeah.
for the month of June. So, if his ERA was like, if he was good and better for us and maybe with an ERA of like 2 something, I would have been like, like kind of like we talked about the ice cream. It's all right. But I think now with him being a bona fide, he's back to that first half 2023 form that we saw him in, of lockdown legit. To have your back end bullpen right now of Joyce and Estevez is really something special for the Angels. And again, Estevez could be gone. His stock is very high right now. And if the Angels do go into sell mode, I could see him being one of the pitchers that the Angels cut loose. But for the transition from Jekyll to Hyde and vice versa that we saw from April, May versus June and July, B+ stuff. I don't know what they did to figure things out. I don't know if it's confidence or working on grip or just communication with catchers and pitching coach Barry Enright. Whatever the formula was, don't fix it. Don't change it. We're good.
I want to make one thing clear. This is a man who needs to get traded immediately. You know what I mean? He is on a high, and the number one mistake the Angels are going to make here is, like Dominic said earlier, already saying, "No, hey, we're not selling. We got to finish business, and we're going to double down, guys, and we're going to win more. We're going to try."
Yep.
That's the number one mistake that can be made. Anybody who has any form of value this year needs to leave, needs to get traded, unless they're going to be legitimately part of the future here.
Yep.
Okay, now here is a man who I'm very interested to know, because in his last 7 games, he's gotten very, very warm. I don't want to say hot just yet. Mickey Moniak, in his last 7 games, is batting .375. If you look at his season numbers, still bad, but he is now batting over the Mendoza line.
All right.
So with that being said, where are you on Mickey Moniak where we sit today?
Keep him, get rid of Adele.
Okay, keep him, get rid of Adele.
I think, let me defend that. I have been on the cross in the boat, arms spread open and basically saying, if I want Adele to succeed, I want Moniak to succeed, I want this organization to succeed. But with the conversation, because I feel Moniak and Adele go hand in hand with their situations. And I think Adele has shown his power and RBI, which is great. It's the lack of consistency in batting average that is just killing me. And I've been willing to eat crow on this guy, but we can't keep having someone who, yes, can hit 15 to 20 homers a season and maybe get 60 RBIs, but be willing to be satisfied with a 160 to 180 average. And if he's not hitting a home run to win the game, he's striking out in bad situations. It's again, maybe the theme of this episode has become Jekyll and Hyde, because it's feast or famine with Joe Adele. Moniak a little bit of the same way, but we're seeing a different side of Moniak that we saw last year. And again, he's warming. He's not hot, but he's warming up, 375. But I think I like the upside more on Moniak, even though he doesn't have the power that Adele has. I could see Moniak being more of a consistent hitter than Joe Adele can when they're both hot. I don't know why. There's just something about Moniak I see, maybe because he sprays the ball more. He's not just a power hitter. He'll double, he'll single, he'll steal a base, he'll round a triple. I think maybe it's apples and oranges conversation here, but I would just prefer Mickey Moniak a little bit more in this situation. Last 7 games, he's getting an A, 375 average. Whole season, probably a D from what we expected.
I think Moniak for me is a D+, and Joe Adele is a D. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's just, neither of them are great. Neither of them have been great. They have both shown flashes. Mickey Moniak last year looked like a solid C+ last year. But just certainly not this year, unfortunately. And hopefully, come the end of the year, we're talking about 2 men who are somewhere in the 260s. Because if we can end the year in 250, 260, that's a giant turnaround from where we were.
Yep.
And in baseball, it's very much a sport of what have you done for me lately.
Yep.
So let's talk about Zach Neto. So I told you when we were first talking about this morning and this idea of an episode,
Yes.
I said, I really, really want to talk about the core of this team.
Yep.
Zach Neto is very much a part of the core of this team, if not a capitan, if you will, along with Logan O'Hoppe. And for the record, I'm very excited for the potential of a future of Christian Moore and Zach Neto up the middle.
That would be
My,
good.
oh my, does that sound like a wonderful situation. So without further ado, Zach Neto, 319 at bats, 251 average, 12 homers, 42 RBIs. And may I add that he's been very hot over his last 7 games going into the end of the break, batting 350 nearly. Where are you on Zach?
I've always been high on Zach Neto, and it's not just defensively. I know everybody talks about the high leg kick and how he can't generate contact from it and all those things. But he is a cornerstone of this franchise now. And I'll bring Logan O'Hoppe, Nolan Schanuel into the conversation. I know you'll have them on the list, I'm pretty sure. But we'll talk about them all in general, because if we're going to keep a nucleus together, let's keep it in the conversation. Neto, first and foremost, I'm going to give him, he had a slow start and kind of the ascend. So he's in the B range, B plus, because the defense still shines. And this is not foreshadowing. O'Hoppe's an A. There is no debate. O'Hoppe's the leader. He is
Absolutely.
the guy.
He is going to be the franchise face for years.
He is the gas that gets put in the car that gets it zooming in the right direction. Okay. We don't need to, there is no debate. Nolan Schanuel, a part of this trio, he would probably be a step below Zach Neto. Again, a slow start. Defense has been better than what we've seen in the past, but Ron Washington still got plenty of work to do there, and I trust Ron Washington to teach that defensively with Nolan Schanuel. I would say B plus Neto, A O'Hoppe, and Schanuel's probably in the B minus C plus range. So kind of a nice tiered system, but when you look at them as a core, they're competitive. They want to win. They don't like this losing crap. They're trying to figure out ways to make the people around them better while also developing and evolving their game. It's like having your head on a swivel. You got to be ready. And throughout this season, Ron Washington has praised each of them in different ways and similar to make this go in the right direction. And he has said, these are the 3 that are going to light your fire moving forward. So Neto, no doubt about it. O'Hoppe, no doubt about it. And I know a lot of people are kind of iffy about Schanuel. I think he's going to be a very, very good hitter in this league. He hits the contact. He doesn't worry about power. If the power comes, great. It's putting the ball up the middle. Let O'Hoppe, Neto, and the rest of the guys drive you in. Don't have to be the hero. And I think that's what makes me gravitate towards Schanuel. He doesn't try to be the hero.
Absolutely. Now, let's see. Let's pick apart what you said a little bit, because I
gave you a lot.
Very loaded statement. Yes. I love the grades you gave. Absolutely love them. Agree. Zach Neto is your B guy, but he acts like an A on the field. Yes. Very much a field general. Very much a guy who you admire his defense. He's not afraid to get his uniform dirty. This man has gold in his future. That's a promise. He is going to be a multi-time Gold Glover when it's all said and done.
Yep.
So with that being said, he is a legitimate building piece. You can build a team around him. Logan O'Hoppe, same thing. I don't think he is as good defensively because of his arm. He doesn't have a horrible arm. He has a very good glove behind the plate. But I do hope that his arm will get better. He doesn't have the strongest arm back there, but when he loses in that, he's able to compensate with the way he calls a game back there. He calls a good game. The pitchers clearly like throwing to him. They clearly are better because he's behind the dish. I just want his arm to perhaps get a little bit better. Fortunately for him, people don't steal nowadays like they used to when we were kids. So he can kind of get away with it in today's brand of baseball. Yeah. And of course, his bat is an 80 grade tool when we're talking about today's catchers, because, nowadays catchers are batting 230 to 250. Yep. So, Logan O'Hoppe has potential to be a 280 to 300 hitter.
Should have been in consideration for the All-Star, but with the popularity vote, it was a snub situation, and who knows if he would have played, but
Yeah, probably not. He's an angel.
yeah, he's an angel in that sense, but it's in his future, 100%.
Oh, absolutely. I think Salvador Perez having the career resurgence he had certainly worked to Logan O'Hoppy's disadvantage. But yeah, two members right there who are great. And the thing with Zach Neto, I'm sure you've seen the comment. There's a lot of honks who have said things along the lines of, "Oh, this fan base can't handle a rebuild. They don't have the patience for a rebuild." You know what? I beg to differ. I've seen a lot of dedicated fans have patience with these guys because we get it. Zach Neto, no matter which way you slice it or dice it, this man should be a AA or a AAA guy right now.
Yep.
Not because he's doing a bad job, but because he's learning and he's building the plane while the plane's in motion.
Yep.
He got called up far too early. Same with Nolan Shanuel. Logan O'Hoppe was the exception because he'd already been in the minor league system with the Phillies. So he was already pretty ready. But those other two guys, like I said, they're figuring it out on the fly. There is no way in hell that Nolan Shanuel deserves to be in the major leagues right now. Once again, not because he's doing a bad job, but because he doesn't have the growing pains under him. He got called up far too early. And all things considered, the C grade you gave him, that's a very fair grade for a guy who had zero opportunity to learn before he got called up. So because of that, I think a C is a good grade for him. But you were right, spot on with your grades there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree in that sense. And for Shanuel, I think it's a situation where the time will be of the essence for him and he will develop. And he's just going to have to do his developing at the big league level. Yeah. What are you going to do about that when you're with an organization that it might be a good thing that he's not in the minor league system because sometimes the Angels farm system doesn't develop well. So maybe to save Nolan a little bit, developing here with Ron Washington is the better move in that case.
So last two guys I want to talk about here. We'll end with this guy, but Taylor Ward, Mr. Dumbo himself, and I can say that as a fellow large-eared man.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, he had 342 at bats, batting .228, 14 home runs. This is a man who, about 2 months ago, we all thought, hey, this guy might be our all-star representative because he was hot for a while.
Yep.
He was one of the better hitters in baseball. He was consistent. But lately, that just hasn't been the case. And there's a lot of people who are saying, well, it's because he got hit in the face and maybe he was having some PTSD. And all that's understandable. But he was struggling even before that. Yeah. Dominic, what's wrong with Taylor Ward and what are you giving him?
Again, very Jekyll and Hyde. A great start. He was the best hitter for the Angels early on in the season. And then he's really gone from a 280 hitter to, 220, 230 in that range now. Not great if you're looking at a guy who's playing pretty much every day left field or even the designated hitter spot, if it's not, Willie the Dong Calhoun in there. But, Taylor Ward is a guy that you love. His work ethic is really good. He brings so much to the table with the Angels. Yes, defense can sometimes not be great, as Todd likes to put it, the noodle arm out there and left. But it could be a tradable piece. I know Pittsburgh has had a lot of interest in him. A lot of teams could have interest in Taylor Ward, and who knows, he could flourish in another organization in the upcoming weeks. Selfishly, I'd love to keep Taylor Ward around to have in left field. I love his swing. It's very clean. The bat path to the plate is very good. And I just like his bravado that he brings in, a very, how do I want to put this? Just a calming presence. Now, I know maybe a lot of fans would say the Angels don't have enough, rah guys that are like getting in your face and getting the train on the tracks. But I think Taylor Ward is a very calming presence that really does an exceptional job to keep this team afloat. And again, he's been put in a tough situation of, well, here's Rendon, here's Trout, here's this. You're going to be the 3-4 guy. And all of a sudden, you got to be our number one RBI option now. So to change that mentality is tough. It's not easy. This game is not easy. So to be put in his situation is tough. But I would say right now, again, with the Jekyll and Hyde, he's probably in the C+ range.
I think that's a fair grade, and which is like he's had to completely change his mentality from just being, hey, you're an outfielder.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was you're a guy to you have to be the guy. There's a big difference between being just a guy in the outfield that features, Trout and Aaron Hicks to start the season. To you have to be our RBI guy. All right,
Yes.
and here is a guy who this should be an interesting conversation because he's really, really cooled off. Kevin Pillar, and this is kind of the guy who I want to wrap with a little bow on top of.
Yeah.
He was a guy who was brought up. He was DFA'd by the Mets, was it?
Oh, White Sox.
Here-
White Sox.
White Sox, yes. He was a Met at some point.
Yes.
And he was our best hitter for a short period of time. He was batting 500.
Yep.
And people were furious because he wasn't getting any at-bats. Now it seems like the jury might be out a little bit, but I would venture to guess he's also probably trading up a little bit of trade interest, a little drumming it up just a little bit.
This is my take. And Pillar, I thought very long and hard about this one because I enjoy watching him play.
Same.
And to me, it's not as long of a conversation as maybe some people might have. So I'll make this, me quick and simple is very tough sometimes, but I'm going to make it quick and simple because I feel
A true broadcaster.
there we go. I think with him making the service time, announcing his retirement at the end of the year, he's a guy that the Angels will trade, give him a chance to go win a ring before he retires. Salute to service for him for getting the job done and basically being the Mike Trout while Mike Trout's been gone. The inconsistencies of having him in the lineup, I think, is a question that would be best served probably for Ron Washington in that sense. And, the Angels, they love playing the matchups and different things. And I honestly think the reason why Pillar lately, not just the bat kind of hitting a cold note, I think the Angels want to take a long, hard look of what they really have with Moniak and Adele. And I think it's Pillar being collateral damage in that sense. But even if he was still batting well, his stock would just keep rising. And now with the retirement announcement, I think he's still going to be a viable candidate. Go back to Atlanta. Maybe if they need an outfielder in Baltimore, or if the Red Sox, now that they're getting hot, he could service any playoff contending team 100%. Veteran leadership. He can get some runs. He's walked it off for the Angels this year. I was at that game against Detroit. Really good to see what he brings to the table. I think to sum it up, I would give him an A just for what he's been for this team, regarding and disregarding the numbers. I'm giving him an A to come into a tough spot and really flourish and shine and give us some sort of hope when we didn't have hope without Trout and Rendon. I just think he's going to be, or he is right now, a little bit of collateral damage because since we're in rebuild mode, the Angels really do have to do their due diligence and see what they have with the young guys like Adele and Moniak, and they need playing time to get a longer litmus.
So I'll end it with this as we close out. This guy, just by default, is going to be an A.
Yeah.
Zero expectations coming in, and yes, he's batting 105 in his last 7.
Yes.
But he hasn't gotten consistent playing time. But every time he's been out there, his defense has been solid.
Yep.
And he hasn't exactly been a liability out
No.
there in any sense of the word. If this man gets put on the block, the trade block for anybody who might be new to the baseball terms, and he gets you any kind of return. I'm talking this guy gets you a low level minor leaguer. It's a win. Why? Because this guy was brought in here as a warm body. He was brought in here to just, hey, go out there and just stand there and do nothing. We're trying to fill the roster out. He had no expectations. He has exceeded that tenfold. Like I said, there was a time where he was the best man on the roster for a month, a month and a half. So anything coming out of a guy like Kevin Pillar is a win. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to get you a little bit of a return. And if that minor leaguer comes up, I use the Ty Buttrey trade all the time.
Yeah.
You know what? We traded Ian Kinsler, who was on his way out of his career when he was here in Anaheim. Yep. He got us a guy like Ty Buttrey for 3 years, who was a solid bullpen piece for those 3 years for us. That's a good trade. Why? Because a guy who's on the twilight of his career gets you something that helps your team for a little bit of time. That's a win for both teams. So I think Pillar is kind of going to get us that. Going to get us a maybe fringe AAA guy who could come up, maybe help this bullpen as guys like Estevez leave. Hey, Ben Joyce is probably going to be your closer. Who's going to be your setup guy? Maybe you can get a guy like that. Maybe you can get a seventh inning guy. So because of all that and what Kevin Pillar can get you, I'm going to give him an A just for funsies.
Everything you said, I agree with. A for sure. Us Angel fans will not forget whenever, if it happens or when it happens, Kevin Pillar's time as an Angel. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. A very Linsanity run for a little bit. Not quite as good as Eric Young Jr. in 2017, because that was a true Linsanity run for the Angels. But
we'll take it when we can get it, my friend. You know how it goes.
Exactly. Here in Anaheim, you just need something to cheer for, because Lord knows we don't have that too often.
Oh, yes.
Dominic, I know you got some other stuff to do tonight. I know you got a long trip ahead of you tomorrow, my friend.
Yes, I do.
Thank you for joining us. Where can our audience find you if they haven't had enough Catella Chronicles in their lives?
Oh, it's at Catella, CHRON on Twitter and Instagram. You know what to do, fans. Like, comment, subscribe, and we're always blessed to have friends in Halos in the Infield. The best Angels people we can partner with ourselves. Nobody else holds a candle to these guys. So proud and so happy of the success that you guys have had and that you've shared with us. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are good. You've had a lot of good people part of Catella Chronicles as well. I hope David's doing well.
We're all doing well. We're all separate in our lives right now, but we still communicate. And,
good.
With all the crazy things with high school sports and the summer and fill-in gigs as a broadcaster, Catella Chronicles hasn't gotten as much love as possible, but people that are still following along and checking out the articles that I've written on our website and just simple posts that we put out there and anything, I know Todd and I have a live stream coming up in, I believe, next weekend at Mezzo's. Ooh. So a lot to tune into upcoming. So anything I can be a part of, I'm there for you guys.
Yeah, and I know for a fact our website is trending back towards being completed and stuff. So we'll have to have you do some writing for that on behalf of Catella Chronicles.
Absolutely.
I know I don't have to say it, but we'll have to do this again soon.
Yes.
I know the audience loves the episodes you're on. Always get great engagement and all that. So on behalf of all of us here at Halo in the Infield, on behalf of Dominic over at Catella Chronicles, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Cheers.